In late 2025, the FDA dropped a bombshell on the world of oncology diagnostics, proposing a change that will redefine the industry for the next decade. They're replanning to downclassify many companion diagnostics, the tests that tell us which drug a patient should get, from the highest risk class 3 down to class 2. Now, this might sound like boring regulatory paperwork, but trust me, it's not. This single move completely changes the money, the timelines, and the competitive game for developing new cancer drugs. Today, we're breaking down exactly what this means for everyone involved: the diagnostic developers, the pharmaceutical companies, and the labs running the tests. More importantly, we'll explore how to navigate this brand new strategic landscape and come out on top. So, what exactly changed? For years, if you wanted to launch a companion diagnostic for a cancer drug, you were in for a long, expensive ride. These tests were designated Class 3, which meant a full-blown pre-market approval, or PMA. Think years of work, massive costs, and a mountain of clinical evidence. But the FDA is now saying, hey, we've been using these PCR and NGS-based tests for over a decade. The technology is mature, the science is solid, and we know how to evaluate them. So, they're proposing to move many of these tests to Class 2. This means they can use the much simpler 510(k) pathway with special controls. The translation for businesses: a faster time to market, much lower regulatory costs, a more predictable review process, and an easier way to update tests or launch new ones. But, as always, the devil is in the details. And there's one huge catch we need to talk about. The single most important detail in this entire proposal is something called labeling alignment. Hear us how it works. Even if a diagnostic test is cleared by the FDA under this new, easier pathway, it cannot legally claim that it predicts a response to a specific drug unless that exact claim is already printed on the drug's official label. This is a game changer because it keeps the power firmly in the hands of the pharmaceutical companies. Imagine a third-party diagnostic developer discovers a groundbreaking new biomarker that perfectly predicts which patients will benefit from a certain cancer drug. They can get their test cleared by the FDA based on its analytical performance, but they are legally forbidden from telling doctors or patients about its connection to the drug. Without the drug maker's explicit cooperation, the test is essentially silenced on its most important feature. For diagnostic developers, this is both a major hurdle and a powerful negotiating tool. For pharma companies, it's a new strategic lever to control their drugs ecosystem. Let's look at this from the perspective of the diagnostic companies. The downclassification opens up 3 massive opportunities. First, the faster regulatory path is a huge win. A 510(k) clearance is significantly cheaper, quicker, and less risky than a pre-market approval. This allows companies to build out bigger product portfolios and create entire families of related tests more easily. Second, it creates a huge reimbursement advantage. In the US, payers like Medicare are much more likely to cover tests that are officially cleared or approved by the FDA, with payers getting tougher on what they'll pay for. Having that FDA stamp becomes a powerful commercial asset. Third, it opens up the market. More companies can now afford to enter the companion diagnostic space, which will lead to more testing options for patients, potential price competition, and a push for better, more innovative products. But it's not all good news. With more players in the game, it becomes harder to stand out. And those labeling restrictions we talked about can seriously limit what a company can say about its own product. Plus, companies operating globally now have to juggle 2 very different strategies, because Europe's IVDR regulations are still much stricter. The winners in this new world won't just have the best technology, they'll have the best workflow integration, the best data interpretation services, and the strongest partnerships with pharma. Now let's flip the coin and look at how this impacts pharmaceutical companies. This shift completely changes how they should think about their companion diagnostic strategy. On the one hand, there are major benefits. A key one is faster clinical trial activation. With more labs able to bring up diagnostic tests quickly and affordably, it becomes much easier to enroll patients in biomarker-driven trials, reducing major bottlenecks. Pharma companies also get more flexibility. They can now work with a wider range of diagnostic partners, or even support multiple tests to ensure broad market access for their drug. But this new world also brings new pressures. Pharma companies lose some of their exclusive control. Lower barriers to entry mean that other diagnostic tests might hit the market without their direct involvement or blessing. This makes the drug label an even more valuable piece of real estate. Deciding whether or not to update a drug S label to include a new biomarker becomes a high-stakes strategic decision that can either open up or shut down an entire diagnostic ecosystem. And as more third-party companies start generating data linking biomarkers to drug outcomes, Pharma will be under increasing pressure to respond, collaborate, or clarify their drug's clinical positioning. The most successful pharma teams will be those that create clear internal rules for when to partner, when to support a label update, and when to maintain tight control. What about the clinical labs and developers of lab-developed tests, or LDTs? They now have more choices than ever before. Many labs will continue to offer their LDTs, especially for exploratory biomarkers, or for uses where a drug label is silent. LDTs remain a critical source of innovation, but for Havalium will establish biomarkers. The new rules make seeking an official 510K clearance a much more attractive option. Why? Because having that FDA clearance can unlock better reimbursement from Medicare, potentially qualify the test for special payment programs, and satisfy commercial payers who are increasingly demanding cleared tests. We are entering a new dual-track era. On one side, you have the incredible flexibility and innovation of LDTs. And on the other, you have commercially focused, FDA-cleared tests for when the economics and evidence make sense. The key for every lab will be to strategically decide which path to take for each test they offer. So, what happens next? This reclassification is more than just a rule change. It signals a fundamental evolution of the entire precision medicine ecosystem. First, expect more competition. This will likely drive down prices and put pressure on everyone. Companies that can't differentiate themselves with strong evidence, excellent service, and solid partnerships will struggle. Second, we'll see a surge in third-party biomarker discovery, but it will be constrained by labeling rules. These meant we LLC. A growing gap between what the science shows and what a diagnostic test is legally allowed to claim. Third, real-world evidence will become king. Payers, regulators, and pharma companies will all demand data on how these tests perform in the real world, not just in pristine clinical trials. And finally, the regulatory gap between the US and Europe will widen. The US is becoming the faster, more cost-effective place to get a diagnostic cleared, while Europe becomes more complex. This will force global companies to completely rethink their launch strategies. Overall, this change is a huge boost for innovation, but it rewards smart, strategic partnerships even more than pure technical novelty. So, with all this change, what should companies be doing right now? Over the next 90 days, every diagnostic and pharmaceutical organization should take 3 immediate steps. First, map your entire product portfolio against the new proposed rules. Figure out which of your assets could now qualify for the easier. The FDA's down classification isn't just an update. It's the start of a brand new era in precision medicine. The companies that will not just survive, but truly thrive, will be the ones who see this as more than just a regulatory shift. They'll see it as a strategic opening, a chance to completely reshape the partnership between diagnostics and pharma for the better. Thanks for watching. If you're trying to figure out your own CDX strategy, navigate label alignment, or transition a lab-developed test to a commercial product, we're here to help. Make sure to subscribe for more insights on the future of diagnostics.